I'm not a therapist. You know that. But I'm a hobbyist. I'm a tourist of psychology.
You're a seeker.
I'm a seeker for sure. I've said that on numerous shows. And you can see that from the books that I have, whether it's...
Yes, those are wonderful books.
Yeah. Whether it's Malcolm Gladwell or Daniel Goleman or Dan Siegel or Brene Brown or I think there's some
Terry Real.
Yeah, I love his stuff on covert male depression.
Yes.
Really mind-blowing. And then also the spiritual stuff. So in my life, you're not the first therapist that has sat there. There's been multiple ones that focus on ADHD.
Yeah, I saw that.
James Ochoa, who wrote a book on ADHD, and he supports people today with ADHD. Anita Robertson also wrote a book on ADHD in partnership, and she's still helping folks with that.
Yeah, I work a lot with ADHD as well.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, that and trauma kind of come hand in hand a lot of times.
Well, what's his name? Bessel van der Kolk thought that ADHD was an expression of the developmental, what did he call it? He tried to get it it's in the book.
The DSM.
The Body Keeps the Score.
Right.
He talks about developmental trauma disorder or something like that.
Yes.
So he believed that all of these, like ADHD, anxiety, depression, were all expressions of a trauma.
Have you read Gabor Mate's Scattered?
I have.
Yeah, that's excellent. Right on that topic.
Yep. I thought that was an excellent book. And his book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, as well.
Yes, I recommend both of those a lot.
I was thinking about addiction because a lot of the folks that sit there also talk about how they've managed the stress that comes along with ADHD. And it's been a discussion around what we call addiction. Which I like.
Right. A need for increased stimulation, increased adrenaline to be able to focus.
Or like soothe.
Yeah.
I was talking with Mark yesterday, who's got ADHD and also struggled with addiction with alcohol and marijuana, which I have as well in my life. And I read that book, Carolyn McGuire, called Why Won't Anybody Play With Me?
Wonderful title.
It is, because it talks about how kids with ADHD, and we'll get started in a little bit. I like to just talk for a little while, just see what's here. Kids with ADHD and kind of adults get so many more negative social cues throughout their life.
Yeah.
And
so then there's self-esteem issues and shame and and their identity gets caught up as being someone who's lazy or, problematic. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Gabor Mate talked about that.
Yes.
How shame was one of the main things that folks dealt with.
Yeah, I'll probably be talking about shame today, I imagine, at some point.
Yeah. I notice approaching this topic, I feel sadness. It's present here with me. Yeah. And I think that relates to the addiction because it's like, how do we make sense of all of that in a world where we're walking this earth and it's like, I'm a good person. I love people. I love connection, and then, so how do I make sense of all this feedback that I'm getting socially, culturally from the people?
What feedback are you getting?
Those negative social cues.
Oh, what, that you're like too much or they don't want to?
For me, in my life, personally, it's been exclusion from groups my whole life. Almost every group I've ever been in.
That surprises me because how I know you in yoga, everybody finds you so delightful, Yeah. That didn't used to be the case.
I mean, it's still not the case. I, as a 48-year-old man, as I'm embarrassed sharing this, but I wrote a lengthy kind of either article about it or maybe it'd be a book. I don't know what it'll be, but I tried to really look back on my experience of exclusion, ostracization, these negative social cues as a survey of my life. And as a 48-year-old man, I would go to these group rides, this bike ride that was every Saturday, this local bike shop. And after a year of riding with them, they invited me into a room and said they didn't want me to ride with them for like a month or more because of the way that they felt like I was showing up.
How did they think you were showing up?
They thought that the things that I talked about, people found uncomfortable or off-putting, like my shares, the way that I would communicate.
Talking about, your personal life or
No,
emotions?
I think in some ways I would like goof off. Like I've gotten this idea that men like to goof off in ways that are kind of like, oh, you're gay, or like these like kind of subtly sexual ways, I don't know how to explain it. It's a guy. I think that's what guys want to do. Like that's how they say we're friends. And I don't do that naturally. It's not the way I normally.
But you were trying to fit in. You were trying to speak a foreign language, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't watch football.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to speak, dude.
Yeah.
So I would like do it, and then the way I would do it, I guess, would be seen as like, oh, you're making people uncomfortable. So I'm like, I'm not doing it right, obviously. And I think they said that the way that I'd ride the bike on the group rides wasn't safe, or I wasn't like responding to their cues to change. And I explored it in this article. I could send it to you and get your idea on it, but it was heartbreaking.
Was this recent?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's painful. Oh, being excluded is the most painful thing.
It is. And
I mean, it hurts.
It really did.
It hurt,
mentally, physically, emotionally. It was a group that I'd been with for more than a year and that had done so many great things for me. I've been doing the show, so I haven't been spending money on anything, like austerity measures, you'll call it. And so they put together a bike for me to ride, a road bike. This community, people in it, really supported me in so many wonderful ways. I was really taken aback when that happened, because and I explored in this.
And they didn't have conversations with you before. They didn't try talking with you before. Or?
I think one person did, but not in a way. I think he would say he did, and I would say I didn't really take it that way.
You needed something a little more direct and obvious.
I did, unfortunately.
Right. People have such a hard time being direct.
And yeah.
I mean, it's like marriages. So often there's a problem, and so one person will just keep withdrawing until the point that the connection has been broken, and then they want out, and the other person is often surprised because they weren't getting the feedback, in a way they could take in.
Yeah. Exactly. So I wrote all about it just as a way, like, how do I turn this into lemonade? And I looked at a bunch of signs.
And you're interviewing a bicyclist, and there's still that connection with bicycling.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it was actually a wonderful thing when they ostracized me from that group. I mean, that sounds extreme. When they said, don't ride with us for a month, right? I went and started riding with other group rides around town and found myself really making new friends and discovering new rides and new parts of the city and things. And
are you going back to the group?
I went back one time and rode with them. I probably would.
I could understand why it might be uncomfortable.
I mean, one of the things about me and my neurodivergence, my brain or whatever, I tend to like make people develop intimacy quick, or at least social expressions of intimacy really quick. Like I put people in a friend category. And so then that can probably have me expressing in ways that people are like, wait a second, we don't have that foundation. And I don't notice those cues that they give that this is too much. And I'll interpret like back off cues as like jokes or play.
Right.
Which is challenging.
There's a term I'm trying to think of. That'll come to me at some point. My word retrieval isn't as good as it used to be. But it refers to, so one thing, of course, as I'm sure you know, that's not uncommon if someone's on the spectrum.
Yep.
But the other thing is that even people who aren't on the spectrum can have difficulty with knowing how close to be to people. So often, if people didn't get some of their attachment or developmental needs met in childhood, they will either be, there's a whole spectrum, of course, but on one end of the spectrum is paranoid and super private and shut down and not trusting people, not sharing.
Avoidant.
Yeah. Well, it's not even avoidant. It's called epistemic trust.
Epistemic trust.
Yes. And so for people who got their attachment needs adequately met and so forth, they just kind of inherently know when it's appropriate to open up to people and when it's appropriate to be less open and more guarded. But if you didn't get internalized that because of lacks or deficiencies in childhood, you might not know. And you might be on the one side, kind of paranoid, guarded. That would be one extreme, that you assume people are hostile or they can't be trusted. On the other end of the spectrum might be somebody who tells their life story to whoever is sitting on the bus next to them, might be fall in love too easily, sexually promiscuous, these kinds of things, setting themselves up for hurt, like overly vulnerable, right? And so, often, that's something that if people can be aware of, they can work on, right? Like, what are the signs that it's safe? You start with just putting a toe in the water of vulnerability with someone, see if they respond in kind with a little bit of vulnerability, right? But again, using terms like this and stuff, it can be helpful when people think, oh, it's a thing.
Yeah.
This is a thing I have trouble with.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Now what can I do about it?
Epistemic trust, is that what you called it?
Yeah.
And it sounds like a spectrum or a binary where on one side, you're closed off.
Yeah.
You always kind of assume it's not safe.
Yeah, the world's against you.
And the other one, like, you're way too open to the world and to people.
A little too vulnerable too,
Vulnerable.
Not enough of the boundaries.
And the middle way is kind of
that you've got that internalized guide that's telling you, what's appropriate, and because that's what's done with you.
Yeah. Heck, I'm probably over here on this side, the open, vulnerable side. In my life, I've experienced the promiscuity that you've talked about, the being really kind of letting anybody into my life and not really judging whether or not they were safe, and having people that weren't safe.
Right.
And part of that is open to influence.
Right. Too influenceable.
Yep. Too influenceable.
And again, part of it can be being on the spectrum. So some of those things you have to learn from here, right?
Yeah.
But also it can be, again, that, for example, you had an unpredictable attachment figure as a child, like a parent. And so you couldn't, there wasn't the consistent, predictable. And so maybe you had to be hypervigilant.
Yep.
Or maybe you're using modeling and the parent didn't have boundaries, right? And shared too much with the child. Treated the child as a best friend, for example, overshared, right? So then that became normalized for the child.
Yeah. So many things can happen.
Yeah.
Ugh. I think I woke up, when we talked earlier about waking up to your past, I woke up before I started the show, but it was when I recognized the impact of this on my kids and thought, I need to change, or I need to figure some things out.
Yeah.
So I can model and behave differently.
How old are your kids?
They're 14 and 17 now.
Wow. How are they doing?
Emerson is a junior in high school. She's awesome. I think she's probably, I'm not going to diagnose her with anything, but I think she might be a little more guarded, more like, I think masking is a word that I could use for her. Like, not really, like when I ask her, what's going on emotionally? Or when I try to get in, she won't want to talk about it.
Yeah. But that's pretty common with adolescents and their parents.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
She's at a place where
She's
peer groups are more,
differentiating. Yeah.
self-differentiation, the Murray Bowen stuff. She's, I've asked her to go to family therapy numerous times just to let's just figure out how to have a great relationship and communicate in a healthy way. And she doesn't want any part of it.
Yeah.
My 14-year-old Eve, on the other hand, is in a facility in Utah. She really struggled with suicidal ideation, self-harm, a lot of things. And so, I feel tender about that. And I'm hoping that it resolves itself in some healthy way. That was a big watershed because I felt a lot of guilt that I was responsible for that. And I know that's not true. It's a big cultural, social soup.
Yes.
And there's a lot of unknowns with her biology and mom, and there's divorce, all that stuff. But I thought, well, I need to be the best human I can be to.
That's a great incentive for growth.
It really is. It really is. And I'm hopeful that she gets some healthy coping strategies and, gets that support. Although I'm skeptical because these programs basically co-locate a lot of kids with the same challenges.
Yeah, I have heard that.
And they're at a place where they're modeling, and probably, just like we said, they're very influenceable. They're very open to influence from their peers, maybe more so than from adults.
Right.
And so the peers that they're around have challenges. So I think, goodness, is this the best way to do this? We almost should locate these kids with a bunch of really positive, adaptable kids and let them just model. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
But co-locating, and then the other thing that I worry about is the restraint and seclusion that they use. Yeah.
Yeah, you worry.
I do.
Yeah.
That's, it is what it is. Parents worry.
Yep.
So, Sheilah Murphy. S-H...
E-I...
E-I...
L-A-H.
L-A-H. Sheilah Murphy. And Murphy, M-O...
M-U-R-P-H-Y.
P-H-Y. And you've been a therapist for how long?
I have been a therapist for about 10 years, almost 10 years.
What's your title? Like, do you call yourself
Call myself a psychotherapist. I have a LPC.
Okay. Psychotherapist. And you did a master's or a bachelor's in that stuff?
I have a master's in counseling.
Counseling. Where'd you get it?
St. Ed's.
Oh, I heard that's a great school for it.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, St. Edward's here in Austin.
Yeah. This was a late life career.
It was?
Yeah.
How old were you when you started it?
50.
You were 50? Wow.
Yeah.
My mom...
But we won't talk about that on here.
Oh, Sheilah's 29?
Yeah, right.
No, that's an amazing thing to model for folks, I think.
Yeah.
That you're never too old to... That adage, right? You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Oh, right.
It's not true.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, being a therapist, more mature therapist is an advantage.
I would imagine.
You have more life experience. Most people want a therapist who is at least their age, if not older.
Yeah,
So,
probably older.
yeah. There's not a lot of ageism in this business, fortunately.
Yeah. Dang, my mom was in her mid-40s, I think, when she got an electrical engineering degree and then went and worked at NASA.
Wow, that's impressive.
And became a pilot. She's phenomenal. It sounds like you're very that same cut from the same cloth of let's keep learning, let's keep growing, let's keep.
I think it was, I have ADHD and
You do?
Yeah, unmedicated, and I have lots of compensatory behaviors, and it's much less than it used to be.
Did you say unmedicated?
Yeah,
unmedicated.
right. So yeah, not medicated.
Me too.
And it really isn't a big part of my life right now, except that I'll leave behind water bottles or umbrellas, or a little bit of forgetfulness there, but.
Yeah.
And, desire to move a lot and have a lot of variety in my life. But I've organized my life in such a way that it works.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
What'd you do before the psychotherapy?
Well, I did a number of different things. I like variety, but for about 9 years, I think, I taught Italian at UT as a lecturer while I was raising my kids.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Teaching Italian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You do it with is it mostly the hands?
Yeah.
That's
right.
That's not good.
No.
Oh, fuck, I don't know any cuss words, but I've watched mobster movies.
Yeah. Okay. All righty.
So you taught Italian while you were raising your kiddos? Mm-hmm. And how many kiddos do you have?
I have 3 kids.
3 kiddos.
Yeah.
Boys, girls?
My oldest is a girl. She's 30, lives in Austin, married, and has a baby.
Wow.
And then my son is 28, lives in North Carolina. And my youngest is almost 25 and lives in Boston.
Everybody's out of the nest.
Yep.
Wow. And before Italian?
Let's see. Well, in between Italian and doing this, I worked on and off for a few years in Austin Montessori School's adolescent community, which is a small kind of farm-based school of 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, pretty non-traditional. And I wore a variety of hats there. My kids had gone to Austin Montessori School for their elementary. And that was kind of a cool experience. I took some time off and did some writing. And then I went back to graduate school to become a therapist. I had kind of an epiphany. That's what I was going to do.
Yeah. You wanted to help people.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do things that help people. But I'm one of those people who was always reading, psychology or self-help books. I had a subscription to Psychology Today since forever. And I had considered it years before and then kind of forgot about it. And then a friend had told me about a career counselor. And I thought, well, I really need to figure out what I'm going to do next in my life. I was one of those people who felt like I was on an ongoing existential crisis. And I went into, and I got this special deal. If you paid ahead of time for 5 sessions with this therapist/career counselor, it was a cheaper rate. So I went ahead and paid for the 5. And at my first session, we were just chatting, and I just blurted out, I wish I would have become a therapist a long time ago. And she said, well, why don't you now? And I literally opened my mouth to tell her all the reasons why it wasn't possible when I realized they no longer applied. My kids were older. I didn't, my position at UT, I wasn't there anymore. I didn't have to worry about losing it. And within a few months, I was back in the classroom, starting my graduate program. Wow. It was just instantaneous. I didn't even go back even though I paid for those other sessions.
You know the other sessions.
I just knew.
You only needed one.
I just knew it. It was a light bulb moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was one of those forgotten truths, we call them. Things that you know about yourself and maybe at some point you wanted, but you kind of let go of or forgot. And I just realized that was the work for me.
Man. I don't even know which one to hold on to because I don't know which forgotten truth. When you said that, I thought when I was a kid, I really wanted to be a rock star.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, then you look at what was it about being a rock star that was so appealing? Was it getting a lot of women? Was it wearing cool clothes? Was it making music? Was it being creative? Was it traveling? Right? Then you look, that's a great thing when you're trying to figure out your career. Instead of what was the title, It's
boil it
what
down
was it
to
about that life?
the behaviors
And then you pinpoint them, and then you can be creative. And then there's lots of things potentially where you might get to travel, or where you get to be creative, or where you are around a lot of women, or whatever it is that
you're excited by.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool to think about. Yeah, let's dissect this title into its components.
Yeah.
And then say, how can I find that in creative ways?
Yeah, we can call that looking for the underlying want or need, right?
Yeah.
You know, when couples, for example, will fight about something, you need to get a second job. Well, I don't want to get a second job. I'm too stressed, right? Yeah. Or, you know, we need to have sex more often. Well, I don't want to have sex more often. There's really not much you can do if that's what if you focus on the end result or the decision, but then if you look at the underlying need for each one, well, why do I need to get a job? Well, I want to feel less stressed. What would happen if your spouse got another job? Well, then I wouldn't have to work a second job, and I could give more attention to the kids, or, you know, I would feel less stressed, or we would be able to pay off our debt, and then you get to what the underlying need is, and it might be to feel more safe or to not be so stressed. And then you can be creative. Maybe there are other ways to try to feel less stressed or feel more financial security without the partner getting a second job, because then you can talk.
Yeah.
If it's just one thing and there's no give, you can't really, there's nowhere to go with that.
We jump to problem solving too quickly.
Okay.
Is that what it is?
Exactly.
I've got the solution. I'm presenting it to you.
Right.
Let's do it.
As opposed to, there's some feelings that are uncomfortable that I would like to address. Can we work as a team and be creative?
Yes.
To come up with some ways to might help me feel more comfortable. That could work for both of us.
And this applied in my software job. I remember I was a
coding person,
wrangler.
Okay.
Yeah. And they would just tell me what to do. And, you know, this is what you need to do. And I'd say, like, don't tell me what to do. Let's talk about what you want, what the outcome you want, and then let's work together. Let's work together on how to solve it.
Yeah, you wanted to have some ownership of it.
I really did. I wanted to be a part of the creative aspect of it. Like, let's talk about, there's a bunch of ways to skin this cat. I've never skinned a cat ever, but it's a thing. And I want to be a part of coming up with how we skin the cat. I think that's what speaks to me when you say that. It's, don't tell me what to do. Tell me what the need is. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what's going on, and let's have a dialogue, because the dialogue is what creates intimacy.
Bingo.
Which is what you probably need.
Right. And so often, if we're talking about couples, you know, they may come to me because they're not feeling close. They're not happy together. They want more closeness, but they're not aware of the ways they're trying to get their needs met actually pushes their partner further away, rather than making it safe for the partner to stay close.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we had Christmas recently, and my sister messaged me and she said, "Oh man, your brother, our brother is like really being a jerk." And then I talked to my brother, and he was like, "Man, Kristen just called and yelled at me a bunch about how I'm not spending time with her." And when I talked to both of them, what I found was Kristen wanted to spend time with her brother, wanted to invest and develop their relationship, to continue to kind of nurture their relationship, to get quality time together. That's what she wanted. And my brother was finding it challenging to prioritize that in his life. And the way that Kristen, my sister, would respond to him would be to yell at him and to...
Right, which is going to push him away and make it less attractive to spend more time with her. Yeah.
And then he yells at her, and then it's this thing, and I'm like, guys, she wants to spend time with you because she loves you. She just wants to spend time with you. I hate to undermine it by using the word just. She wants to spend time with him. And for her, that's a need. And it's hard to tell someone that you love, that you care about, that you can't prioritize that in your life. Both of those things seem to be really difficult. But the way they would start to unravel that would be to probably just share it that plain way. Like, I love you. I want to spend time with you.
Right.
And I feel like our relationship is starting to, we're pulling apart.
Right.
How do we come back together?
Right. So there's an intimacy want or need, but there's a low tolerance for actual intimacy and talking about it or trying to make it happen, probably because that wasn't the language in the family growing up. There wasn't people maybe were sarcastic or indirect or, so people weren't used to talking about emotional needs and wants. So, everybody's, speaking the language that they were raised in, and often, it doesn't facilitate feeling good together.
Yeah. I hadn't spent time with this family in like 5 years. And I went and had Christmas with them this year, and I thought, man, we all probably needed to do a lot of work. And and my brother's like, why don't you become a therapist? I'm like, I don't know that I want to be a therapist. I mean, I like the idea of helping people. I just think this is healthy communication. And I think he views healthy communication as you're a therapist. And I think therapy is probably well beyond this. I'm just like,
Yeah. The good news is that only one person really has to change for the dynamic to change a lot.
Really?
Yeah. If one person doesn't enter into the old interactive pattern that's dysfunctional or dissatisfying, or the dance, we sometimes call it, and they choose to pause, to breathe, to stay regulated, to not get reactive, to not get, be saying a lot of you things or pulling away and shutting down, but they're able to stay calm, regulated, open-hearted, and confident that they're okay, they're safe because they're connected with themselves, then it really doesn't matter what comes from the other person. And once the other person realizes you're not going to play ball with them, the old game, the old dance, you're not going to engage, then often there's a shift on their part too. Usually not right away. Usually it has to happen, after a series of interactions.
Yeah.
And so... this is what I talk a lot with couples or family systems, that you're in a system.
Right.
Okay. And it's got homeostasis. It's got balance. It's predictable. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily happy. It might involve a lot of fighting or a lot of emotional distance or not much sex or whatever, but it's predictable. And then one person, really becomes unhappy with it. And maybe they go to therapy, or maybe they do some soul searching or get educated or whatever. And they figure out a way to be more aligned with their best self. They stop getting reactive. They develop a mindfulness practice. They do ways so that they can stay calm and stay in the present moment. So all of a sudden they've changed the dynamic. Well, what do we expect when that happens? We expect the other person to feel a little confused and disoriented and try to pull the other person back into the old dynamic. Not because this is a bad person, but because they're actually fighting for the relationship that they know it.
Yeah.
Consistent and predictable.
Familiarity, yeah.
Right. And so most people in their relationships do try to change. They try 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and then they say, it's useless. I tried and they didn't change. But it usually takes longer than that. And so what I recommend is when someone makes a change in their relationship, the drive for that change, I don't recommend that it be to get the other person to change.
No.
Your change, you're going to be most successful if you're making the change because it feels right to you. Yeah. It feels more aligned with your values and your best self. So then when it doesn't go well, when the other person doesn't respond well to your different way of being, it doesn't rock your commitment to this new way of being. And then when this other person realizes that this new way of being is going to be lasting and permanent, then we predict that most of the time they're going to make a shift. Then you're back in homeostasis or balance, but in a happier one. Right? Yeah. So that's the good news that I was telling you about relationships, and that is sort of with all the couples and the families that I work with, one of the first things I tell them, even before we start our work together, that a lot of couples work or family work really looks like individual work, because what we're aiming for is you to become aware of your tendencies, your injuries, your cues for reactivity, and be able to pause, come back into the present moment, regulate yourself, and then choose how you want to be. And if you do that over and over again, it's like magic, right? Then the other person, you don't keep score. You don't say, I'm not going to change until the other person changes, right? That line in the sand that's so the number one predictor of failed marriages, for example, is seeing the other person as the problem, that the other person needs to change, right? Yeah. And that's what you usually get, in a first session of couples therapy,
This person needs to change. They need to,
right.
He's doing it at fault. Yeah.
Right.
I can remember me being that person.
Yeah. And so that's why a lot of the initial work up front in successful couples therapy is helping the couple together figure out what their interactive pattern is, what their dance is. It's like, oh yeah, when I say this, then you say that, and then I say this. Or when he does this, and she does this, and he does this, if it's a heterosexual couple. And, once they're able to do that, they're able to say, oh, this isn't like one of us is bad, or it's the way, we're interacting together, the way we get triggered by each other, right? And it brings out not our best selves, right?
Yeah.
And so then, the more we can identify, oh, this is our dance or this is our cycle, then when it's happening, if one of them can even just notice it and say, we're doing our dance, then bingo, now you're in present awareness rather than in a triggered past self.
Right.
And then you can...
You're out of some default mode network, a rut.
Yeah, right.
I think of the imagery I have here in this discussion is like going from a mosh pit to like, how about we do some formal dance, some social dance.
Yeah, where there's some structure and we're moving in with the music and
as opposed to we're banging up against each other and obviously people get benefit from both ways.
Yeah.
Or else they wouldn't do it. Or they're just replaying what they experienced as a child. And then moving towards this other way, it's certainly more healthy. It's better for the relationship. When I hear you talk about all these things, I wonder, are you a Marshall Rosenberg fan? Because all the feelings and needs reminds me of nonviolent communication. All the relational stuff reminds me of like John Gottman when you talk about relational success. His book, The Science of Trust.
Yes.
His stuff he did in a relationship lab in Seattle.
Yes.
Games People Play. I thought of that book. I forget that guy's name.
Those are all wonderful books and really important work. So if you're asking kind of what my foundation or my perspective is, I would say, all of those are, foundational.
Right.
Probably, if I were to say that my work, I do about half my practice is couples and half my practice is individuals who are having difficulties in their relationships due to adaptations they made in their childhoods or family of origins. Okay. And so a lot of times that might be, there might be some developmental trauma work in there.
Yeah.
But I'd say that, sort of the most important perspectives from which I work are family systems.
Family systems.
So seeing relationships and interactions as systems rather than one person, pathologizing one person, right?
Yeah.
And looking at the ways people interact and normalizing it within the context of their larger family systems, their ancestry, their family, their childhoods, and so forth. So family systems is one. Attachment,
Attachment styles,
is crucial, right? The early relationship with the parents and if they got enough of those basic attachment needs and how that plays out, that's a big part of relationship work. And then interpersonal neurobiology.
Yeah, Dan Siegel's
the brain, the nervous system, and that's just such a big part of understanding what's going on in the moment when people are having a hard time feeling good together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the nonviolent communication, the research of John Gottman, all couples therapy work, comes from some of the findings of the Gottman Love Lab,
Yeah.
right? The research there. And then there's been lots of other great work by couples therapists since.
Yeah. So the system, the family system, which means we are a product of all of our intimate relationships up until now, the family systems, right? Your mom, your siblings, all of that. You are within a context of that family, and it's going to determine kind of how you receive love, how you give love, how you communicate, how you respond to stuff.
Yes. I like that word that you used, determine. And I have been speaking along those lines increasingly in the past year. I read a book in the last year, very dense, difficult book, but the gist of it by Robert Sapolsky called Determined, in which, and he's not the first person to argue this, but that there is no free will, essentially. And that can really get people going, that assertion. But I find that it can be really helpful to talk about this in my work with clients, because probably the number one inhibitor to being able to change, to be able to overcome past hurts, our wiring, and so forth, is shame. Right? Shame, yes. If we feel bad about ourselves, if we are beating ourselves up, okay? So I'll try to keep it sort of simple, but in terms of if we're trying to change, right? If we're trying to overcome our wiring.
Right.
Well, I'm going to set that aside for a minute. I'm going to get back to that because I started talking about the book Determined, Robert Sapolsky, and your use of the word determined. So I'm going to get back to that. I'll just say that a lot of couples or families or individuals, when they come in, they feel really like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with us? This should be natural to have, why do we have to get couples counseling, right? There's something broken about me or my partner.
Shame.
Right. Or it might not even be conscious. It's, and I'll talk more about shame, but I find it very helpful to frame it and be a little provocative in that, humans, think about those flocks of birds that fly like this and the murmurations, they're so beautiful.
Yeah.
And, I'll say, we're like those birds. Those birds are not thinking. Those birds are not choosing. They are simply doing exactly what they were wired to do.
Right.
Okay?
Schools of fish, yeah.
Well, human beings are animals, and we're designed to work similarly in that we're born with certain personality tendencies, genetic predisposition, and the interaction of what we're born with, and then the environment in which we grow up and those early relationships create our wiring.
Yeah.
Okay. We can call it our internal working model.
Okay.
Some people call it the map of the mind. It's what you were talking about. It gets pretty cemented in those first years of life. And what it does is tell us, what relationships look like, what life looks like, what our identity is, what we can expect from people. It's going to influence the paths we take, the jobs we take, the people we're attracted to, right?
Yeah.
And people think, you're choosing your spouse or you're choosing your career, when I would say that most people, most of the time, are in default mode, which means they are operating basically on their programming or their wiring.
Yes.
Okay. And when that's the case, that's what most of us are doing most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's not bad. That's not broken. We're animals, and that's the way animals are designed to be. The problem is human beings' brains got so big because of agriculture and nutrition and so forth. We got more complicated, and just acting based on our wiring, which worked when we were more primitive creatures, and the goal was to, make sure that you don't get attacked by the wild boar, or that you stay clear of fire, a young child burns their hand, they learn not, right? So
don't eat these berries.
Right. That's part of their wiring early on, right? Scare tactics to avoid kids from doing things so that they, wouldn't get dangerous.
Original like German, don't go into the woods.
Yeah,
stories.
but even further back there. And so whatever, lessons you got about safety and love and caring and so forth came from the nurturing of the parent, got internalized, and that's part of your internal working model. Well, and so when somebody says something to us and it causes a reaction, a whoosh, like Terry Real might say, that whoosh reaction comes from all the past times when we had similar sorts of experiences, and we're pretty much fated to respond a certain way based on our genetic predisposition, our personality, and the ways those interacted with our relationships and environment in our early years of life.
Yeah.
So we're all just doing what we're programmed to do. Like, the way out is conscious awareness. Right? The way out is to move into the present moment.
Yes.
Because when we're not in conscious awareness, probably about 85% of whatever we're experiencing in the moment is filtered through the lens of our past experiences, whether those be positive experiences. If you were lucky enough that you had a lot of positive experiences and healthy relationships growing up and that sort of thing, then you're going to see people as friendly and good and safe and trustworthy. If you're not so lucky, which is the majority of people in the United States, right?
Weren't so lucky.
Who didn't get their attachment needs fully met,
Absolutely.
Right? Then then what the automatic response is, the programmed response, might not be one that's going to increase the odds of feeling good in a relationship.
Yeah.
And so, the way out of that, we were talking about this earlier.
The cycle.
The same thing over and over again is to move into conscious awareness, to say, I'm back in that old dance. I'm triggered.
Yeah.
I'm having a stress response here. I'm back. My 6-year-old self is lit up in my neural network right now, or my 3-year-old self, or my 15-year-old self, right?
Yeah.
And we can notice that. Then there's all sorts of things we can do. We can pause. We can breathe. We can calm our nervous system, get out of fight or flight, and get back into a place of calm. We can give ourselves compassion. We can use our imagination to bring to mind our younger self. We can speak to our younger self. We can develop an inner child practice, right? All those things you can do, but you're not going to do them automatically. They're things that you decide to do when you're in conscious awareness. So going back to your use of the word determined, I think it's helpful for clients to realize that we're all just doing the best we can because we're doing what we're wired to do. And the thing is then, if you develop awareness about this, about how this is maybe contributing to your unhappiness in your life, or maybe, health issues or relationship issues or career dissatisfaction or whatever it might be, then, a therapist or your readings or whatever can help you understand what's going on. And then you can choose to engage in behaviors, whether it's therapy, whether it's meditation, developing a mindfulness practice, yoga, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, time in nature, all these kinds of things that are going to help you more often stay in conscious awareness present. And that's the yummy place where you can choose how you're going to respond. Then you can learn about healthy relationship. You can learn, okay, well, this is the language my family spoke, which was sarcasm, aggression, or never talking about your feelings, or shutting down, or any other kinds of behaviors that harm relationships. And you can, that's my impulse, that's my tendency, that was my wiring.
Yeah.
But now that I'm in conscious awareness and I can learn a foreign language as an adult and find there's other ways to behave.
Starts with awareness.
It really, first of all, awareness of your unhappiness.
Of yourself.
of your unhappiness, so that then you become a seeker, right?
Yeah.
You seek help from a therapist or from,
books or experiences.
Right.
Yeah. I do a series with a philosopher, Grant Potts. And one of the questions we had was about free will.
Yeah. It's a hot topic.
It's a forever topic. And it shows in our earlier discussion about waking up to your present moment and not having you didn't have any choice about what past you did. You didn't have any choice about what past your parents did or their parents, grandparents did. And that's speaking to this. I think this is generational trauma when they talk about intergenerational trauma or just intergenerational activity or whatever it is. I guess it doesn't always have to be trauma. It could be the other side of the coin.
Yeah. It can just be tendencies, practices.
Intergenerational practices. The place where we can make a difference, where we have agency. I love the word agency.
Yeah, I love it too.
Is agency's right next to awareness and that present moment practice, that like be here now.
Yep.
This is the Ram Dass. This is all those seekers. They were like, whether it's Eckhart Tolle, be here now. Like all of them seem to be saying the same thing. Wake up. I get chills when I say it. This topic is really exciting.
Yeah. And so often, yes, I mean, I think good psychotherapy is spiritual work. For successful outcomes, there's a degree of spiritual work, but the waking up, even for, when you hear these stories of Eckhart Tolle or all these people, when they had their enlightenment, it often came after periods of suffering.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, often people have to get really, really uncomfortable, lonely, their marriage on the verge of ending, or maybe it already did end, struggling, hitting rock bottom before they're uncomfortable enough that they're going to, seek help.
Yes. I'm going to look at this poem. I want to read it. I'm called to read this poem. I think you'd love it. And it speaks to what we're talking about. You probably know it. A part of it is beyond the field of good and bad. Have you heard that one?
That sounds familiar. Who's that by?
I want to say it's Rumi.
Oh.
Or it could be Gibran.
Oh yeah, Khalil Gibran. Yeah.
It could be.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
Oh man. Yeah, here it is. I'm gonna read it. I love it. I don't know, it just clearly came to me as we were talking about this because of the dedication to awareness, the constantly choosing to be here, even when it's difficult to be here, to saddle up next to your suffering, to comfort your sadness, to say, I'm anxious. I feel anxious. Anxiousness is present. And we talked earlier about addiction. That's turning away from, if it was like a John Gottman and his bids for connection, the anxiety, the depression, the anger, that's all a bid for connection that I think your body is making to your consciousness. And to turn towards it is to do what the Buddha said, or do what the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali said. It's to be with.
Yeah.
Be with yourself.
Yes.
Love that little child.
Right.
When you spoke to, your younger self that's getting the whoosh, it's a remembrance or something. It can be really difficult to do that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe after we read this poem, we can talk about what gets in the way of people's being able to move into present awareness and how it can help.
Yeah, it's a Rumi quote. The poem is called A Great Wagon. And this is the middle verse of it. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep.
Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. Yes.
A couple more.
Okay.
It did some weird things.
Okay. All righty.
Yeah.
I thought you were done.
You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. That's the complete middle verse. And I think that sleeping is what people talk about, whether it's Dune, where they talk about
it's the autopilot.
To
it's the autopilot.
Yes.
We were talking about the acting on your wiring, right?
Yeah.
And it can be comforting to do that, to do things the way they were always done, even if it causes loneliness or conflict or, people often are comfortable with things they know and that were done for them. So that when there are certain people who are just maybe more naturally seekers, open to new ideas, it might be more their personality trait to do that, and they're going to find these kinds of pathways. But what can be tricky is if ways that you adapt to your childhood, and the old terms would be like psychological defenses. Now we might call them protectors or adaptations. So when we were talking about that you're born and it's this mixture of your genetic predisposition and personality traits interacting with your environment and your early relationships, and that sort of begins to form the person you think of as you, your identity. A part of that creation of your personality, your identity, comes in ways that you adapt to the reality of your environment, okay? And we can call those adaptations, protectors. For example, if you grew up in a family that they loved you, everyone was nice, they took care of your physical needs, but there wasn't a lot of emotional validation. For example, if a young child, a toddler, goes running to mommy or daddy because they fell down and scraped the knee, and they say, "You're fine," or "Boys don't cry," or "Let's get you some ice cream," or or a teenager is feeling bad about their first breakup, and the parent says, "Let's go shopping," right? Or and we can think of a million ways. It's not bad parents. It's not people who don't love their kids, right? And so many of my clients, they'll say, "I had a great family. I had a good childhood. Why am I having these struggles?" And so for many, many people, it's not that they were, severely abused or, that they were orphans or they had a parent die or anything, extreme. It was sort of these chronic kind of small injuries, attachment injuries that went on day to day because when a child is getting their attachment needs adequately met, the parent is present, consistent and predictable, calm and regulated, and curious and accepting of all the child's states.
Yeah.
And so what that would look like is if a little child is, upset, sad, or angry or whatever, the parent is going to be attuned to it.
Right.
Just like when a small baby is crying, our face will just naturally go. And when the baby's happy, our face natural.
Yeah.
That's attunement, right? That's the mirror.
Right.
And most people can do that with babies, but then because of the learning we got from our families, there'll be some expectation that a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old be like an adult, right? And get over it, rather than the parents joining the child, being with the child in the emotion. "Oh, that really hurt," or "That's really disappointing," or "You're really angry. I can hear it in your voice. You want to talk about." Right. And so when that emotional attunement doesn't come to the child, they come really excited about something. "Mommy, guess what happened in school today?" Or "Daddy, Daddy." And the parent says, I can't talk right now, I'm too busy, or they're on their phone, not really listening, or the parent's depressed and wants to nap, the child feels a drop into shame.
Yeah.
Shame feels so awful.
I'm not supposed to feel happy. I'm not supposed to feel
Bingo.
exuberant.
The child learns, okay, this is like touching the fire and learning to stay away from fire, right? Oh, I'm not going to access those emotions, and I'm not going to go to anybody with them.
Yeah.
So things like excitement might get muted.
Right.
Or so there's a lot of people. So I guess what I'm going back to is when we were talking about doing this work of moving into consciousness and doing meditation and yoga, there are some people who maybe have certain personality traits that make them more open to seeking those kinds of practices that will help them move into conscious awareness and eventually, more likely to do therapy, those kinds of things, and be able to make some of those changes. But there's a lot of people who maybe not even be aware of their unhappiness or the dysfunctionality of their relationships unless maybe the other person starts complaining or threatens leaving or leaves. They're not connected to their emotions because they learned early on to suppress them or tap them down. They don't really value emotions. They don't understand emotions. They're not connected to them. Emotions are what guide us, right?
Yeah.
They give us so much important information. And if you adapted to your childhood, if you developed certain protectors who said, don't feel that, right?
Yeah.
If you develop certain defenses against that, it's going to be really hard to be guided by your emotions, and seek help and move. And so, kind of that's the living the lives of quiet desperation. And so that's a lot of people aren't going to get into therapy, or they're not going to be interested in meditation or that sort of thing because they have strong protectors telling them not safe to look within, not safe to explore, right? And that's very common, predominant in our society, right?
Yeah, to be a seeker. When I talk about the reasons I'm a seeker, I'd say that I woke up to the realization that all the models I was provided weren't helpful. And I didn't have anything. When you talk about, you have this emotion and now what do I do with the emotion? And you go through your Rolodex of all the ways you've done things with it, or all the things you've seen other people teach you to do things or model. And you're like, well, none of those really worked. And I don't have one here. It's a blank page.
Yeah.
And so then you seek positive, healthy ways to be with emotions. You seek positive role models. And that seems to be a daunting task in a capitalistic society.
Yeah. But there are good people there, and there are people, trying to change, and there's a lot of people with open hearts. And so it's, I like the word finding good role models, because humans learn through modeling.
Yes.
So even as adults, if we didn't, if you didn't have parents or neighbors or aunts and uncles or somebody that had healthy relationships, you're probably not going to know how to do it.
You won't know how to do it.
Right. And so, but you can continue to learn through modeling throughout life.
You got to find people to observe, I guess.
And then there's, so we've been talking in part about understanding where some of the sources of our unhappiness come from, and why we have the particular struggles we have, or being, and that's, that's like a great starting point. First, to be able to change, you have to be able to know that there's a problem, or that there's a desire for things to be different than they are, right? Yeah. That's the first thing, part of change. But there's a lot of people who, and they'll go to therapy and they'll be very aware of their issues or their challenges or their tendencies, and they can talk about it, they can analyze it. They've done a lot of talk therapy and that sort of thing. But just knowing about what your problems are or why you have them, if you stay up in your intellect all the time, it's unlikely to really change.
You got to tap
fundamentally.
into some sort of body awareness or intuition.
Right. And that's when, if we move into talking about change, like overcoming our wiring, our programming, so we can transcend it and be happy or be healthier, feel more whole, feel more at peace and at ease. So awareness is a big part and an important step.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of therapeutic approaches and modalities that kind of stop there. They're more skill oriented, they're more intellect oriented, and that's a helpful first step. But for most people, it's not going to be enough to make change. And so that's when we look at, the Bessel van der Kolk and the
somatic
Right.
experiencing.
Right. And that's when we look at how the brain and the body work.
Yes.
When there have been injuries of sorts in childhood, or we can even say when some of the basic attachment needs don't get fully met. And that is the majority of Americans who, to one degree or another, didn't get their attachment needs fully met.
Right.
Okay. And we're not talking about perfect parents, right? We're talking about parents who about a third of the time are able to provide their child, that secure attachment relationship. And so, so you had asked me about trauma, and that term trauma is kind of controversial now because a lot of people think it's overused, and people on social media are just diagnosing everybody with trauma, and so I think it's helpful. I think it's helpful to look at how people have a trauma response to an experience or a series of experiences in their life as an example of how the body works, and that it's a spectrum, right? So on one end of the spectrum would be post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD.
Okay.
And then it's a continuum where people are going to be affected by adverse experiences or so forth, but maybe not to the extreme where it's diagnosable as PTSD, but that it still may be coming up and interfering with a person's well-being, their health, their physical health, their emotional health, their relational well-being, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think it's helpful to start with an example of PTSD.
Because it's the extreme.
Because it's kind of the extreme. So you think about, like, when we think about trauma, most people think about like war, tsunami, a rape, violent rape, a bad car accident, and that kind of stuff. And that we call that a big T trauma.
That's big T.
And you probably know a lot of this, but I'm just saying it out loud. So.
No, well, they might not. And this is for everybody.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so if we look at maybe a combat veteran who is walking down the street and just talking with somebody, and they're just living, doing their day, and all of a sudden there's a really loud bang, okay? And all of a sudden that person jumps under the car.
Yes.
And in their body, they are feeling everything that they felt at the moment when they were in combat.
Yes.
Okay? So trauma has no it has no time. Right?
Yeah,
okay.
This is from can we digress for one moment?
Yes.
This reminds me of the studies they did with, what was his name, Little Albert?
Yeah.
Where the little baby or the small child, this poor kiddo, they would bring into a room, and every time they'd show him a white bunny, they would scare the living dog out of him. They would just scare the heck out of this little kid. This poor kid, wherever you are, Albert.
Yeah.
Goodness, we did you an injustice.
Yeah.
But from that, we learned that traumatic experiences have no time.
Yeah.
They really don't have fidelity.
Yeah.
They don't have definition. So it wasn't just bunnies.
Yeah.
It could be a certain time of day, but not structured to that time, any time in his life.
Right. There's a particular cue.
The building they saw, or just like Fluffy texture of
Yeah,
soft,
right, exactly.
white.
Yes.
That's why when you see a car that's like your ex-girlfriend's or your ex-boyfriend's,
And your heart starts pounding. Yeah,
just because it's the
yeah,
same kind
yeah.
of car.
Right,
You
right.
don't know that that's her or his car.
Yeah, yes. It's a cue. It's a sensory cue. And so it might be visually, like you see the car. It might be tactile. You mentioned the fluffy. The child might just feel something fluffy, and that's enough cue to bring back the distress response. It could olfactory smell.
It could be a smell. It's just all of our senses. We have
It could be the weather. It could be the season. If you had a traumatic experience in the spring, so then when the flowers start to bloom and you hear the birds, you can start to be filled with old feelings, old emotions. Maybe there was a breakup at that time, and so then there's deeper sadness. But so going back to this combat vet, who all of a sudden is in a state of intense fight or flight, okay, survival. This person is acting and feeling as if their life is in danger. Alrighty, so what happens with trauma is that in the moment of the incident, when the person was actually in combat and they were in a fight or flight state appropriately because they needed to protect themselves or attack, their life was in danger, then certain bodily functions slow down or stop working, ones that are unnecessary. For example, digestion. You don't need to digest food right then, right? The blood flow kind of leaves a lot of the organs and goes to the extremities so that you can run faster, that you can hit, or that sort of thing. One thing that tends to not work is the pathway to the hippocampus in the brain. And the hippocampus is where explicit memory is stored. Okay. And so in our normal life, when we're calm and we're relaxed and we have experiences, we go on a camping trip with our family or our friends, and then afterwards we can tell about it to somebody and, oh, we did this and we camped here and we made s'mores, and it got stored into your explicit memory. And then you can talk about it in a verbal way as a series of events or whatever. Okay. When you're in intense fight or flight, that pathway kind of shuts down, isn't working. And so the experience, rather than getting stored in the hippocampus in explicit memory in a way that it becomes, something you can talk about, and it gets stored in an older part of the brain, more primitive part, and is experienced as sensation. Okay. And so that's why, the person can't really talk maybe about what's happening, but they're feeling exactly the same body sensations. Okay. Think about that for animals, or when we're more primitive, right? You learned, you saw a family member get eaten by a wild bear. Okay. So, you were in fight or flight at that time. So you learned from that experience that if you see something that looks like a bear, or you hear the sound of a bear, if you live in the woods, you're going to have that experience again. So this is a normal bodily process that humans were designed to have for survival. Okay. The problem is that most of us are not in danger most of the time. But we have a lot of stressors that cause us to get into fight or flight all the time. Okay. So going back to what's happening in the body. All right.
Shutting down certain things.
So that's an extreme example, okay, of the combat vet. Let's go to somebody who, maybe had what we call small t trauma, which is more the kind of trauma I tend to work with, which is more developmental trauma. And by the way, a situation that could potentially be traumatic or experienced as a trauma for one person isn't necessarily going to be experienced as trauma.
Right.
So we know that there are some soldiers who will develop PTSD from their combat, and they may have someone who had a similar experience in combat not develop PTSD, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of it can be genetic predisposition, it can be resilience, it can be if there have been previous experiences of trauma. So there's a lot of other conditions that will determine whether somebody experiences a distressing event as trauma and then develops PTSD or not. Okay?
Yeah.
So everybody is somewhere on this continuum, because this response of being in a heightened state in danger is the way we're designed. All righty. So the kind of trauma that I work with, the more extreme forms could be diagnosed as PTSD, right? I mean, we could consider PTSD, and other times we wouldn't. We might call it multi-trauma, or maybe just a distress response.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give an example. So there's a couple, and they seem happily together and get along, and life seems okay and pretty decent. But certain things come up sometimes. One is that, let's say, this person's partner, let's say it's a gay couple, and so it's John and Bill, okay? And Bill texts John, and he doesn't hear a response. And John is usually very responsive. Okay, John normally responds very quickly to Bill's texts. And a half hour has passed, and John hasn't responded to Bill's text. And Bill starts to feel this tightness in his chest, and his face is getting hot, and he can't breathe very well. And he's starts pacing the house and checking his phone compulsively, repeatedly every few seconds, right? And then is muttering out loud to himself and actually getting really angry at John and coming up with all these stories about what's happening and right is
how
John
he feels about him.
Yes, and and maybe crying at some point or whatever. And so then John comes home, and Bill is such in a heightened distress state that he just like jumps on him and, where have you been? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And John
has no idea about any of this.
John is like, oh my God, I had no idea my battery was out.
My phone died,
and I didn't even realize it. I'm so sorry, Okay. So that is a more kind of real life experience. And that's just one of all sorts of different responses people can have. Maybe you make a bid to your partner to use Gottman language, oh, look at that squirrel out the window, and the partner doesn't respond for whatever reasons. And that's kind of right. And it ties into experiences this person had from childhood where they didn't get responded to, and their old beliefs come up, right? From that internal working model, or the map of the mind we described about that decide all these beliefs. And so going back to the example with John and Bill, we can guess that Bill had some abandonment experiences as a child. Maybe the parents divorced and one of the parents moved far away, or a parent died, or maybe just a parent was, never picked them up on time from school and they were sitting there alone, or, something. So pretty much any time the emotional response is bigger than what would elicit from the majority of people, or people who don't have maybe this, same past, then that's a sign it's the past coming up in the present, okay?
Yeah.
And that's the same phenomenon physiologically that happens with the war vet. Are we going to call this PTSD? Maybe not. Do we call it trauma?
It's a similar flavor of it. It's a heightened.
Right.
Can I tell you why that is such an interesting example?
Yeah,
you just
sure.
gave?
Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear it.
Real world example.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a girlfriend.
Okay. Congratulations.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Jennifer, thank you for being my girlfriend. We work out together all the time.
Yeah.
Wonderful thing we do. Strength training, lifting heavy stuff, kettlebells, all that stuff.
Yeah, nice.
Fun. I like to think.
Play. You were talking about play earlier.
It is play.
Yeah.
We goof off with other people there. And it's January. It's now January 2026. The gym is flush with folks with New Year's resolutions.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There's new faces in our gym classes because folks have aspirations for fitness. And I hope that they realize those. But there's new people to talk to, new things that can happen. I've kind of got my little community of guys that want to pretend to lift heavy stuff or grunt or whatever we do. I'm gonna lift the heavy stuff, whatever. And my partner, as I'm doing this and interacting with my community, I observe her speaking to a man, which isn't uncommon. Happens all the time.
There's a lot of men in the gym, yeah.
There's men in the gym. There's women in the gym. I speak to women. I speak to men. She speaks to women. It's like we speak to the people in the gym. I don't know what happened, but when we left, I think I hugged her a little tighter, or I kissed her, or maybe I touched her in the gym a little bit more. I noticed some behavior.
Claiming her. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Something was happening there that I was kind of aware of. Because I've reached some level of awareness.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that. maybe energetically. I'm like, this one's mine.
Yeah.
But the reason your example is so spot on, or it resonates with me, when we left the gym, she went home. I did the abs and glutes class, which was an extra 30 minutes. When I left, I sent her an emoji, a kiss emoji. I think I just needed a little validation, or some care, or some expression that we were okay, and that, we're still a good connect. We're still a good relationship. I don't know. I needed some validation, probably. I was feeling insecure.
A little insecure.
I felt insecure and anxious.
Maybe this guy was lifting heavier weights.
He was attractive too. Okay. He was a young guy. He was lifting heavy weights. He's attractive.
Okay.
I thought, well, this old dog in here, lifting the old dog stuff. It's silly.
How did she respond?
So she didn't respond to the text for a while.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
And I started anxious checking my phone. I didn't mutter around the thing, but that probably was happening on the inside. I started thinking, like, what is she doing? What's going on? Normally, our pattern of behavior is I'll send a kiss emoji and she'll send one of the faces with the hearts around the face.
Nice.
Or a hug emoji,
Yeah.
We've got a pattern of behavior.
Good.
And I think
yeah.
humans are
That's how you sort of tend the relationship.
Yes.
You've got your shared language of reassurance and connecting and
yes.
responding to bids.
Yes. It's a way of me saying, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
You're in my life always.
Yeah.
And when you come up in my mind, when I want to connect with you, I'll send that emoji. She'll send something back. And I think as Homo sapiens, as humans, pattern recognition is really important to us.
Yeah.
We had to learn to recognize, what's a leopard versus what is swaying grass.
Yes, yes.
And that same power of pattern recognition is now in 2026 being applied to this text message exchange.
Yes, yes.
And she doesn't respond. And I'm thinking like, she had to have responded. I'm like restarting the phone, thinking, maybe it just didn't come through.
Yeah.
I'm doing some things to distract myself in what I think are healthy ways. Some of them probably not that healthy, like doom scrolling, like just scrolling through the thing or finding a movie to watch.
Yeah.
And eventually I messaged her and I said, I'm feeling some kind of way. I sent that kiss emoji hours ago and you haven't responded. And I think this will be a good segue into our next topic. As soon as I sent that text, I felt so much shame. So much shame. And she called. Like almost immediately. She didn't mean to not. She thought the emoji that I sent was in response to the last thing that she had sent because it was kind of in close proximity. She thought it was like the end of a conversation handshake.
Yeah, the
not
period.
The beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't answer the phone.
Yeah. Oh.
So she didn't get that bid for connection. I think I texted her back like, hey, it's getting late. I'm feeling kind of emotionally washed. I'm going to go to bed, but I feel shame. I try to tell her what's up for me.
Yeah.
But the shame, I avoided that bid for connection, that thing that I was wanting.
Yeah. What was the thought that went with the shame about having told her?
I shouldn't be insecure.
Okay.
I shouldn't think all these ways.
Okay.
I shouldn't.
Something's wrong with me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
shouldn't be insecure. I shouldn't anxious check. I should
Yeah.
be okay. I shouldn't worry about my
Yeah.
girlfriend talking to men at the
Yeah.
gym. Like
Yeah.
what kind of
Right. We always look out for those should words, right?
yeah, we should on ourselves.
Right. 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 Because that's the opposite of radical acceptance of what is,
Yeah.
which is I'm feeling insecure. And so one way to challenge that shame, let's say you were still feeling it and we were talking, is to remind you that humans are designed to have some hypervigilance around the security of their attachment relationship.
Yep.
Because that's survival. We think about back in the day when we were more primitive, if humans didn't stick together, they would die.
Yeah. Ostracization was a life-threatening.
Right. Particularly if there wasn't a baby. So jealousy and some hypervigilance, some awareness, was a way to stay safe, was to make sure that your partner wasn't straying, to make sure that your genes would continue, that your offspring would survive because the parents would stay together so that their odds of survival were greater. So for one thing, normalizing your response.
Yeah.
You're human.
Yeah.
You're in an attachment relationship.
I care about it. It matters to me.
It matters to you. And there's vulnerability. And that's uncomfortable, right? It's scary, all righty? And so, you had enough awareness to notice that something was going on. And rather than, spiral into all these stories about what was happening, you actually reached out to your partner. So that was a good thing, right?
Yeah.
We reach toward our partner. We tell them what's going on, right? We share our internal experiences.
Yeah.
That build, and it's an invitation. And if you've chosen a partner who's capable of responding well, which it sounds that you have, this girlfriend is caring and
she is.
responsive, then it's a good move. You did a very pro-relationship behavior.
But
What happened was being emotionally vulnerable in that situation was probably a cue, like that loud noise out on the street for the combat veteran.
Something bad's going to happen.
You have a protector, a defense, who tells you, don't be vulnerable. Something bad's going to happen.
When she calls it, I'm going to get it, or it's not going to be good, or
right, and that's
scary.
This is dangerous. You shouldn't do this, right? And we're not without going into your whole childhood, right? Or we can guess that there was some ways. You're a male in the U.S. Right there, you've been socialized not to be vulnerable. Okay,
Right.
So just that alone could explain, if nothing else, right, why there might be shame about vulnerability, because men are socialized to not be vulnerable. Right?
Right.
So a boy who cries on the playground, ooh, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be ridiculed. Not a good look.
Tidy it up, Billy.
Yeah. And so, wow, you overcame, so much socialization and who knows what else to actually reach out to your girlfriend and tell her that you were having some uncomfortable feelings.
Feeling some kind of way.
Yeah. But then you had a cue that took over.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then in that moment, the best you could do was kind of shut down and self-soothe and go to sleep, and you shut her out. And that wasn't necessarily a pro-relationship behavior. But the good news is we don't have to be perfect. We can get flooded by our things. We can have, but there's two people. If the other person can reach out and be kind and not blame us or keep score, or if you can. The most important thing is when there's a rupture in a relationship like that would be described as a rupture. You had these uncomfortable feelings, you reached out, and she reached out to you, but then you shut her down. You didn't respond.
Yeah.
The most important thing isn't that you don't have ruptures. It's impossible not to have some sort of ruptures from time to time in relationships. In fact, it makes the relationship stronger. We can talk about that if you're interested.
Yeah, we can. I'd love to.
Yeah. So
we're about to talk about repairs, aren't we?
Yes. And rupture and repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to be able to talk about that. But the what matters is that you have a repair.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, attachments are formed over a series of ruptures and repairs. Okay, so let's think about a baby and the parent. We'll just say a mom in this example.
Okay.
All right. So little babies have no sense of time. right?
Yeah.
So maybe the baby has a soiled diaper, okay? And let's say the mom is in the other room briefly, maybe helping with another child or cutting vegetables for dinner or on the computer, who knows what.
Yeah.
The baby experiences discomfort and starts crying. Okay. The baby has no sense of time. So in however much time, seconds or minutes, moments that it takes the mom to get to the baby, the child has been abandoned.
Right.
And there's been a rupture. Okay.
Yes.
Then, and then the mother, or it could be the dad, if it's, but in this example, the mother picks up the child.
Giver.
Yeah, the caregiver makes eye contact, coos,
Yeah.
attunes to the baby. They're not just like matter of fact. They're like, they attune to the baby's state. And then they physically use their nervous system, their breathing, their skin warmth, their smell.
Co-regulate.
To co-regulate, to soothe the baby. The baby's calmed down and there's been a repair. Okay?
Yeah.
And it is this process of rupture and repair that helps form a strong attachment. And it also helps the child develop a sense of identity, a sense of safety. So many important things come out of rupture and repair.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to give another example about rupture and repair that's related to shame. Okay? So let's say a child runs into the room and says, Daddy, look at the painting I made on the wall. Okay? The child's in a state of excitement.
Yep.
Okay. Well, who can blame the parent? They might initially say, what? Because the child made a picture on the wall, right?
Right.
And so what happens for the child? So there's not an attunement. Okay? The child was in a state of excitement and the parent's like angry or upset or whatever.
On the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parent doesn't have to be perfect. Okay? Sometimes we're going to not have the best response, right? But the child's experiencing a drop into shame. Okay?
Yes.
When the child feels the
You're
drop.
wrong.
Yeah. When the child feels the drop into shame, chemicals are released in the brain. And sorry, I don't remember all the science about it, the names and stuff, but let's just say it does bad stuff.
Yeah, there's bad stuff juice up in your brain.
Bad stuff juice in the brain when the child drops into shame.
Yes.
However, and this is what's like magic. I wish, if I could go back, I'd study neuroscience so I could remember all these terms and describe in more detail what happens. But when the parent goes to you and says, oh, hey, that must have really scared you when my voice got loud like that. Come here. Show me your picture. Wow, you really made a beautiful tree. So Jen, we don't want to color on the walls, but let's get a big piece of paper and tape it on the wall. So next time, and the child's comforted and soothed and the parent maybe holds them, whatever, and there's a repair. Okay, those chemicals that got released in the brain when the child dropped into shame,
yes,
they shift, they change, they transform, and then they change function, and then they begin pruning, just like you prune a bush.
Yeah.
They prune the brain for increased self-regulation.
Synaptic pruning.
So that that's the beginning. So when a child ruptures, inevitable. When there's the repair,
you're teaching them how to self-soothe or how to soothe.
Over time, their brain develops what it needs to eventually be able to stay calm and regulated themselves. The parent, they borrow the parent's nervous system when they're a child, and if the parent's able to be present and available and attuned, then that's how the child eventually can be a calm and regulated as an adult, and how they can, when they have children, if they have children, they can do the same, right? But there's a lot of us walking around with nervous systems that get activated super easily, in part because our parents didn't have calm, regulated nervous systems, so we didn't have enough of that process.
Right.
Okay, so I haven't gone back. I'm going to get back to the couples.
Okay.
But it's helpful to look at the parent-child. So because this series of ruptures and repairs is so crucial just for basic development and forming the attachment, it would not be in the child's best interest to have the perfect parent. Even if it were possible, if the parent could anticipate the very second the child has a need and be right there.
Yeah.
So the child wouldn't have to feel that momentary abandonment.
Tested, or they wouldn't get to strengthen that muscle.
Right. We need the rupture to happen
repair,
because the child needs to have the repair. All
Lucky
right.
for us, rupture happens we get opportunities. all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the great news for parents. You don't have to be perfect.
Yes.
Going to couples, it's the same thing. Think about new couples. You're still in the new couple.
Yeah.
If it's just a year or so.
Yeah.
Think about lover spats, right? At the beginning, couples often have fights, misunderstandings, right? They're getting to know each other. It's part of that same process of rupture and repair, helping the attachment to grow strong. Okay. Over time, if the couple can hang in there and they continue to be able to do repair properly, the attachment will get stronger and stronger. And then there'll be fewer misunderstandings, things smooth out. And then if they have a long life together, it's easier and all that. They understand each other. But so that's why this concept, Daniel Winnicott, who's a famous child development researcher, developed the term the good enough mother.
The good enough mother.
The good enough mother. You don't want the perfect mother. The good enough mother is actually the best.
Because this mother knows how to repair.
Well, the good enough mother means she's not perfect. It means there are going to be ruptures.
There's going to be ruptures.
We're not talking about the mom screaming at the child, right? We're talking about the mom being not perfect.
But the good part is the repair part.
And it's the same thing for couples, okay? It's the same thing in your adult romantic relationships and in your friendships, your deep, important friendships.
Right. This is about relationships,
Right.
really.
The good news is we do not have to be perfect. We can have moments of shame. We can have moments of falling into our old patterns of shutting down or being aggressive or whatever.
Yeah.
But if we can use conscious awareness to realize that we're activated, that we're in an old distress response,
Yeah.
we can take a pause. We can calm ourselves down however we do that, with our breathing, with taking a jog around the block, doing jumping jacks, calling a friend, listening to music. We can bring ourselves down, and then we're in conscious awareness. We can choose. We can remind ourselves from our, the podcasts we listen to, or the work we've done in therapy, or the books we've read, how to do a repair. Then we go to our partner, and we begin that process, right?
Yeah.
And then the attachment can even be stronger. And so that's where a lot of couples, unfortunately, grow apart and lose their strong attachment, is because they have fights, they have misunderstandings, they have hurtful things happen, and they don't know how to repair because nobody modeled it for them. And so what they do is just wait it out.
Oof.
They kind of separate. They don't talk much for a few days.
It
feels miserable. They stonewall. But not even because they're bad people, because they just it wasn't modeled for them. And they get on their computers, or they go to work for a few days, and then after a few days or hours or whatever, then they just kind of act normal with each other and then move on. The problem is there wasn't the repair, and so the relationship got injured, and a relationship cannot sustain an infinite number of injuries. At some point, it's going to get damaged beyond repair.
Heck yeah. Reminds me of, I used my phone because what we're talking about reminds me of kintsugi. Kintsugi, you know this? I think I pronounced it right. It's called golden joinery. It's the practice in Japan of when something breaks, they repair it with gold.
Yes.
And so what they're left with after the repair is far more valuable than the original object.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of this idea of, with each rupture and repair, it's how we repair. It's that we repair.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful metaphor. Yeah.
More valuable, makes the intimacy more, it's intimate to tell someone vulnerably, authentically your experience. And it's also scary. Depending on your life experience. For me, I can speak for myself. It's scary because of the responses I've gotten to sharing my experience.
Yeah. It is scary. I really like that analogy. And you do create something that's stronger and more beautiful.
Yeah.
So going back to the whole shame piece, when a person, or in psychotherapy, for example, a client is in a state of shame, that's the first thing to address. You really can't do anything else until there's shame, because remember, when we're trying to Change comes through changing the brain, creating new neural networks that are more functional.
Yeah.
One of the prerequisites for changing the brain, one of the prerequisites for lighting up the whole neural network so that you can change the brain is that you're in a relaxed state. So you're in nervous system calm. You're not in fight or flight.
Yes.
You're with a trusted other. You feel safe with the person.
You feel safe.
The third thing is that you're not feeling judgment. You're not feeling judgment from somebody else, like the person you're with, and you're not judging yourself.
This is radical acceptance or...
Yes. Shame is self-judgment. So if we're in a state of shame or beating ourselves up, the neural network is going to just like be in lockdown.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to create new juicy ones, right? Yeah. So the first order of business is to address the shame. So what I did when you were describing the shame you felt about telling your girlfriend that you felt insecure.
You normalized.
I normalized it. Damn. And I validated it.
Yeah.
I said there's good reasons to have jealousy.
Yeah.
Right? I normalized. I could universalize it. Like
most people do
that, right?
Yeah, you're not alone.
I could use self-disclosure. I could talk about times when I have had a similar thing.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
We're
not
simpatico.
alone.
We're
right.
We're
like. So that's the first order of business. And for some people, shame is so prevalent that that's the primary work in the therapy for quite a while. And that's
to get acceptance.
Well, because maybe their adaptations are so kind of dramatic that their sense of self, their identity is entirely tied up in external things, appearance, success, money,
right?
Other people's opinion, being loved, being adored by people, right?
Externally validating versus internally.
Right. It's kind of that hollow tree, right? There's only the bark and there's nothing inside. You know, this would be someone, for example, on the far end of narcissistic injuries, right?
Yeah.
Hollow trunk. It's a trauma response. They got way too little of their attachment needs met in childhood. And so if somebody calls them out on any of their external, the ways they measure themselves as having value, their money or their looks or their being attractive or anything, then if that arrow, the other person's input, right, punctures that bark, there's nothing inside to keep it from a free fall into shame. We know shame is the worst feeling.
Yeah.
And so when there's people who really, don't have a well-developed internal self, they're going to get angry and attack. So we know some people in the public sector who are like that, right? We don't have to name names. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well, many of us are on that spectrum.
Yes.
For some narcissistic injuries. Maybe it's not a hollow tree, but maybe there are parts of the bark that are a little porous, right?
Yeah.
And if that arrow hits the right spot, vulnerability maybe.
It's the chink in your armor.
Then, right. And so, maybe you don't lash out, but maybe you shut down, right? And so that a big part of the work for all of us, to become more fully dimensional, peaceful, joyful people, humans, is to develop that thicker, stronger core.
Yeah, the inside.
Right?
Yeah.
Developing that relationship with ourselves.
That you're okay. I'm okay.
Yeah. And so that, is a lot of the work for people who experience a lot of shame, but for all of us.
Shame is the death by the second arrow. You've heard that analogy?
No.
The second arrow?
No, tell me about that.
Look it up real quick, but it's a story that I think it's a Buddhist story about a general that was on the battlefield. Something occurs in your life, a failure. Phil Phails. This whole thing is about this. But I'm going to put second arrow and see what it says, just so that what a wonderful world we live in where I could just put in second arrow Buddhism. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to read what it says. Well, I'll tell you and then I'll read what it says. The first arrow is the event.
Mm-hmm.
The misstep, the phrase. And that's the arrow that comes from the external world.
Mm-hmm.
Some feedback you get.
Right.
The second arrow you shoot yourself with. Because
self-judgment, shame.
Yes, it's all of these things, the way you respond to the event. Instead of, normalizing, doing the things that you listed a bunch, generalizing, normalizing, sharing a story. We're the same. This is, I'm not unique. A lot of people feel this way. You go into that shame spiral. What it says, the robot. In Buddhism, the second arrow is the self-inflicted suffering, judgment, and rumination that follows unavoidable physical or emotional pain. The first arrow is with teachings emphasizing that while the first arrow, which is life's hardship, is inevitable, the second arrow, our reaction, is optional and can be avoided through mindfulness, acceptance, self-compassion to prevent magnifying our distress. So I always think of shame as like death by the second arrow.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. I'd never heard that. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have another story from my life I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
Oh man, it's interesting. And I don't think I'm unique. I think everybody could have a whole plethora of stories from their life of ruptures.
Oh, yeah.
And curiosity about like, how should I respond to this rupture? This one happened recently. Well, not recently. It's been a couple months. It's in a men's group. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to go into the particulars, but I'll share kind of the event. There was some discussions were happening, and at some point, one of the folks in the men's group, he's older than I am. I would call it like an elder, like quite a bit older than me. He told me to shut my fucking mouth in an aggressive tone in my direction, maybe even pointing a finger, and stood up and said it a couple times. Now, the rupture I'm not as concerned with the rupture because these things happen. I imagine he was in an emotional state. He was responding from that. Something was up for him. I haven't known how to kind of like respond in a world where there hasn't been a meaningful repair. I don't feel like I can ask him to initiate a meaningful repair with me. And it impacts the way that I show up in circles together when he's present moving forward, not having that repair. So I think this might be a good story, about what happens when that repair doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And how do you, in my world, given that this person didn't of his own free will initiate a meaningful repair with me, I create a boundary. I say, this isn't someone who's going to repair. This isn't someone who I can trust, which makes it challenging in a men's group space, which is a vulnerability, authenticity. Yeah. This is a place where we do our work, right?
Right. Yeah, so that's a real interesting example because this is someone you're continuing to have to run into in shared communities.
Yeah.
Okay. So our number one job, unless maybe we have a small baby or child that we have to take care of, but even then, our number one job is to be our own best parent as adults, to take care of ourselves.
Yep.
Okay. So you're going to these groups and being around this person feels uncomfortable, it feels strained, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
So to take care of yourself, it might be helpful to try to get to some kind of peace with this person. You said that you drew a line or a boundary with him and decided he's not a safe person. It sounds like he might not be, right? I don't know. Is this something that the person has done more than once?
No.
Okay. So it might be that they have some big limitations. When they act out, they don't know how to initiate a repair. It doesn't mean, it's not 100% certain that they wouldn't be capable of engaging in some kind of repair. But the thing is, this goes back to, remember we were talking about the epistemic trust?
Yeah.
Right. So this guy has behaved in a way that was really not cool.
Yeah, it was scary.
And it was scary and it was hurtful.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that you want to protect yourself from him. And, you have some choices. You can just tolerate the discomfort being around him.
Yeah.
Or you could make a decision that to take care of yourself, you're going to not have that line in the sand and say it's his job to make the repair since he was the one who acted out.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't a recommendation. This is just an exercise, an example.
We're riffing here. We're riffing.
Yeah. So, for example, saying, contracting to talk with him. Hey, would you have some time to talk at some point? You always want to contract before you have a conversation. That's important to help the person be in a good state.
And be aware of this is coming.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you can talk about, hey, we had that encounter. I'm still feeling bad about it and it feels uncomfortable. Can we talk about it? Would you be open to talk about it? And it may be he's mean and snarly and like you got more information.
Yeah.
It could be he's like...
validate my decision, have a boundary.
Yeah, it could be he's just super defensive and can't look within or acknowledge his part and that you're getting more information about him.
Yeah.
Or it could be like he needed some help approaching a repair. And maybe you could say, hey, yeah, I guess I was sort of out of line. Sorry. I was just had a fight with my wife, or you know what I mean?
Right.
So in that example, you would have helped him to give you what you want and need. There's some risk there. You don't know how he's going to respond. And so you do want to have some self-protection, right? You don't want to be your completely open, vulnerable Phil, but you could invite this because then it might help you, even if you're not going to become best friends with him, even if you might choose not to be vulnerable with him or spend extra time with him, it might help you feel more comfortable when you go to these things. And that's different than like fawning, where you're trying someone who's mean to you or mistreats you and to be safe, you compliment them, you stroke their ego, whatever. Yeah. That's an unconscious impulse. That's one of those,
fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
That's one of those adaptive behaviors that people learn to try to be safe.
Please.
But if you were to do this, it would be from a conscious, intentional place of I'm doing this to take care of myself. And in the meantime, I may help further peace in the world by creating an opportunity for a repair. So I'm just proposing another point of view that people can get confused about boundaries, that they can think, okay, someone mistreats me once, that's it. You get to decide, well, is this someone I really don't care about and I'm never going to see again? Is this a family member, even though they're difficult and whatever, but I want to have them in my life?
Y'all have those.
In this instance, this is a person who's in some communities.
Yeah.
So you get to decide, what's going to help you the best. But there are ways to help someone who's maybe more limited,
and
less resourced.
And grow through that.
Right.
It would take courage.
It would take courage, yeah.
It'd probably take, man, there's something I don't like that I think is here on my side, that through my reaction of not moving forward or asking for the repair, there could be a punishment aspect. That might not be the right word, but like...
fuck you, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm just not going to give you my energy. I'm not going to look at you in our circles. I'm going to remove... I'm not going to invite you into any of the things. I'm not going to talk towards you. And that's punitive.
Yeah.
And is that the kind of person I want to be? Mm-hmm. Ugh. And it's kind of an ugly part.
Well, what I'm wondering is if you're actually free doing that. It sounds like there's still some suffering on your part.
Or I wouldn't be talking about it.
Right.
Right.
And so, what might it be like to bring your best self to this? And have the confidence that he can't hurt you because you have internal boundaries. You don't open your heart and soul to this person because they haven't proven themselves completely trustworthy.
Right.
But it doesn't mean you can't engage. You can't try to, broker peace, some mutual understanding, you may even be helping. That's what Terry Real talks about in his couples therapy. How do I help my partner give me what I want and need? Maybe I want
that dance, this different dance.
Yeah. So, if he was coming to the group and you just like didn't even notice him and you're like, okay, whatever. And it wasn't causing you any discomfort, it might be one thing, but since it is, it might be that's some information.
Yeah. So we've talked about rupture and repair, and we've talked about rupture and
we talked about shame. We talked about
repair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Getting back to what I was saying about trauma and the continuum, I just wanted to finish that up. I was saying how, there's different ideas. People are saying, oh, everybody's saying trauma is and there's some complaints about that. And I get that. And so what I was doing with that, the vet,
PTSD.
The PTSD in the vet, and then the person, kind of having a huge distress response to not getting a response from their text and their partner.
Yes.
So there's a continuum. At what point you call it trauma, and at what point you call it, just a stress response. A lot of times the way we look at it is if your triggered responses, right? If the ways that your past is invading your present, interferes on a, significant level or on a consistent basis with your healthy relationships, with your work,
right,
or with your moving forward in your goals, that's when we, might give a name to it or that it's something that really needs addressing. We all have, because we're humans and because that's how we're designed to operate, we're going to have moments where our past comes up.
Yeah.
And it can help us stay safe. But I guess just because you had mentioned wanting to talk about trauma, I just thought I wanted to finish that up. That in a way, it doesn't matter what you want to call it. It's all the same thing happening, and we can address it in the same way. And if it is a trauma that's interfering with your relationships or with your inner peace, or if or your health, a lot of people with chronic pain or serious GI issues or autoimmune cancer, so forth, as Gabor Mate wrote in his book about the ways that the trauma plays out in our health.
Yeah.
All those things, if you're having, if it's really impacting your life, that's when you might want to do deeper trauma work. It's more sort of body-brain work like EMDR or somatic work or parts work or inner child work and those kinds of things.
And those are all vehicles for finding that soothing, like getting the bilateral stimulation kind of tricks your brain into thinking, oh, we're okay.
Yeah, remember when I talked about how the pathway to the hippocampus shuts down when you're in chronic fight or flight or in extreme fight or flight? Part of what determines whether a distressful experience becomes a trauma response or PTSD, in addition to a few things I mentioned before, like have you had traumatic experiences in the past? Do you have a lot of resilience? What kind of resources you have? Also, in those experiences, whether it's a one-time shock trauma like combat or a car accident, or it's chronic, persistent, like developmental environments or relationships, are two things. Are you alone in the experience? And do you have any agency to get away or change?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's why for children, having a parent who is maybe tends to their physical needs, for example, but is depressed, is checked out, is working two extra jobs, has mood issues, or, you can imagine lots and lots of different reasons that they might not be available to the child. They're going to have a chronic stress response, okay? And for a child, they depend on the parent for survival, literally.
Yep.
And so there is a powerlessness for children. So which increases those odds of things like that lack of attunement affecting them as a trauma response.
Because they've got no agency.
Right. And the second thing is, for example, for some children, if there's a neighbor or a grandparent or another parent or even some siblings that, that they don't feel alone with, that can mitigate it.
Yes.
Right. And so that's why part of, healing trauma, requires relationship, a safe relationship with a therapist. And so that's a piece of it. Also, as part of, when you're doing trauma work, whether, any of those modalities, they all are what we call body-brain approaches, in that they're not just up here, right? But they're, the whole neural network is lit up. You're aware of your body sensations. You're aware of your thoughts. You're aware of your emotions, and you're able to name them. You're aware of any action impulses, right? So when you're able to do that, and maybe we're working on a memory or a series of memories that are leading to, problems in your current life, sometimes what can be beneficial, like if we're doing inner child work, is using the imagination, or if we EMDR, to come up with a different story, a different outcome. So with inner child, we can imagine either the therapist or the adult self coming back and comforting the younger child who is alone, so they're no longer alone.
Yeah.
The brain doesn't know the difference between
visualizations.
Yeah, the brain doesn't know the difference between real life and imagination. So we can literally create a new memory where the child wasn't alone. We can imagine the child getting away. Sometimes we'll imagine running out the door with the adult self or with the therapist, getting in the car, driving away, having a different outcome, getting the attention you didn't get, or being safe if you weren't safe, or et cetera. And so, but a lot of times we can do physical things. Sometimes if there was rage that wasn't allowed to be expressed, throwing pillows, raging, or, I might have clients push open the front door and run out the front sidewalk, or, so there's some experiences of addressing those two things, the not being alone and the not being, stuck or unable to get away or not having any agency.
Yeah, I just thought about I had a therapist for a long time. Her name's Anita Stoll. Do you know Anita Stoll? Mm-hmm. I just had a great sense of appreciation for her and the time we spent together. And I don't think in the time I was there, I understood. And I just did.
Yeah. Oh, well,
she
beautiful.
Did, what was it? Constructive resource modeling, or CRM? Is that what it is? Yeah. Something like that. And we would do these visualizations. I had a sacred place. I had an animal, and she'd bring the animal in, and it was all these things.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It really was beautiful, but at the time, I don't think I realized it.
Yeah.
It might have been just play for me, or I was going along, or I didn't know how to.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes she would ask me questions, and there wouldn't be an answer.
Yeah.
So I would just kind of make up whatever.
Yeah. Right. So you were in trying to please her, right? You were being the good student.
I definitely wanted to please her.
Yeah.
I thought she was real cool. I still think she's real cool.
Yeah. That's great. So, at different points in our life, we can be ready to do certain kinds of work, and it's going to sink in, and it's going to have more of an impact.
Yeah.
At other times, we might not be there, right? But there's so much work that people can do on their own with, inner child. I have an active inner child practice of my own.
You do? What is the inner child? Is that IFS? Internal family systems, or what is the framework for it?
I mean, inner child work has been around for a long time, but IFS, internal family systems, does what's called parts work, where you're looking at your various protectors and how they've tried to keep you safe, and you work with them and negotiate with them. Right? It's a wonderful approach, and it's also one of those in the category of body brain approaches for trauma. That's really helpful, but. So, inner child work can look like a lot of different things. Think about if there were a baby on a little table right next to me sleeping, and you and I are talking, but I'm very attuned to the baby as well. And anytime the baby stirs or fusses, I put my hand there. I might my voice might get a little softer for a minute. I might sort of rock them a bit, and I'm able to engage with you, but I'm also very attuned to what the child needs, what the baby needs.
Yeah.
All right. For the minority of Americans who got that close attunement to their needs, they internalized it, and they do it automatically and unconsciously with their breath. When they're hungry, they eat. Their internal cues guide them. If they've been going, and someone asks them to go do something, they say, I think I need to stay home and rest. Where some of us might push through our internal cues.
Yeah.
We don't eat enough, or we go out too many nights in a row. We get tired. We get sick more easily, right?
Yeah.
We didn't internalize that close care of our physical self, or maybe we didn't do good personal hygiene because we didn't get it taught from our parents, or, all sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we wait too long to eat because there wasn't someone who was noticing that we needed a snack when we were a kid, or that kind of thing. So for some people, inner child work, or after you've been doing it a while, it might just simply be just checking in with yourself, with your breath. Where am I? Am I grounded? Am I good?
How's my breathing?
Mindfulness practice, daily mindfulness practice, multiple times a day practice can help with that. But a more sort of explicit inner child work might look like, and I'll just talk about my own, for example.
Yeah.
So it used to be when I was younger, I'd be stressed, I'd be having things going on, and I would just push through it, right? Yeah. Whatever emotions I had, or I would just do my to-do list, right? Yeah. Find ways to stay busy and not feel my emotions. And, but as I've done my own personal work, what I've learned to do is, because I have a mindfulness practice and I check in with myself, let's say I'm about to go out the house and go somewhere, but I notice there's kind of an anxious feeling in my stomach. I'm more likely now, to sit down and close my eyes and, direct my attention to that feeling in my stomach and send my breath to it. And just kind of try to identify an emotion. What's going on there? I think I'm a little, and then maybe I can figure out if there's a thought that goes with that emotion. And then I'm thinking, oh, you know what? I'm actually feeling a little sad about something that happened yesterday. I wasn't even aware I was thinking about it because it was, just circling in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in conscious awareness of it. And so I might just, let myself give more attention to the emotion rather than less, right? Which is our impulse, distract, avoid, suppress. That's why addiction, all those things, because we're trying to avoid our emotions. Instead, move closer towards the emotion. Give it more attention, like an attuned parent would to a child. Be with it. And maybe I'll shed some tears. Or maybe I'll just say, oh, it's okay, sweetheart. You're safe. You're going to be okay. Or maybe I'll just do some good long exhales, right? And I'll wait. And it will usually pass through me very quickly, like clouds on a breezy day. Mm-hmm. The more attention I give to my emotions with compassion, the less likely they are to stay stuck. Yeah. And so then I go out and do my day. Or another example might be I'm walking on the greenbelt. Normally I'm just really happy and feeling great when I'm hiking on the greenbelt. Mm-hmm. But if I notice something's off, I'm not enjoying it as much as I used to. Yeah. I might bring to mind my 3-year-old or my 6-year-old self and imagine she's on the hike with me and I'm giving her all this attention and she's so happy and excited to be there. She loves going on hikes and she didn't get to really do that as a child. And I might tell her about this invented picnic I packed for us, and I might say what I made and what the treat is. There's some cookies, chocolate chip cookies I made for us, and I brought this blanket. And
you're trying to elevate your mood.
Right, but I'm not artificially oh, cheer up, Sheilah, or, No, what I'm doing is there's a younger self who is driving in that moment because there was some sensory cue, some interaction, there's been some ruminating thought.
From the past.
Coming up.
Yeah.
And so I give her the attention. I give her what she didn't get enough of at the time, which was attention and soothing. I was the 9th of 10 kids, you can imagine. Oh, right? Goodness. Yeah. So, and then I imagine her and then it just then I forget about it and I keep my hike, but I'm lighter, I'm easier. And so that's you tending to your internal states the way an attuned parent would attend to a baby, a toddler, an adolescent, whatever. And I don't recommend people just go straight to doing that with themselves. Ideally, they'll find like a therapist that they can practice it with. Journaling is another way to do inner child work. Often for a long time, my prompt was, "How was your day, sweetheart?" Right? And then I would just write about my day and my feelings and my thoughts. And it began to be something I looked forward to. Oh, yay, I get to sit down, yummy, and connect with myself, right?
Yeah.
And a way of tending. And that work for me personally has helped me to feel more calm and even to feel more joy and open-heartedness. Hard things that happen in life don't rock my boat like they used to. So I know from personal experience, it can really be an effective way for healing and growth.
Yeah. Being with, noticing, it's taking that awareness that we have with our external world and then focusing on our internal world.
Yeah.
Is there something there that needs some attention or some... I like that. I've done two-way prayer. I had Father Bill Wigmore on the show like 2 or 3 times now. And he does two-way prayer. He taught me and I practiced it where
Yeah, what's that like?
you write it's beautiful. You kind of write an emotional question to source or God or universe or whatever you want to call it. And then it's kind of like finding intuition or some God through you, finding your own best nurturer.
Yeah.
And then you give the answer from that place.
Oh.
It was such a beautiful
Two-way
experience.
prayer. I have never heard of that. I love that.
He wrote a
I
book
want to
about
try
it.
that.
I'll
Okay. Well, I can Google the book,
yeah,
right?
you can Google it. Father Bill Wigmore. I might have it here. I did those two-way prayers for a while, and he came and we talked about the ones I did, and wow, it's so powerful. And I also did morning pages.
Oh yeah, morning from the Artist Way. Yeah,
I did
that's
those
great.
morning pages. I was looking down here. I have a little sheet on two-way prayer. I would give it to you, but it's not here. Maybe oh, here it is. I'll let you leave with this, and you can give it back or not give it back. But I think
Why don't I take a photo of it?
Oh, you could.
So, yeah.
Let's do it at the end.
Yeah.
But this is how to practice two-way prayer. It is a cool, and I think it's doing what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's
There's
one
so
example.
there's so many entry points for developing a closer relationship with your internal self.
Yeah.
But
I think that's part of living a happy, healthy, balanced. That's nurturance, right? You're nurturing the plant, your plant, whatever.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What excites you most about helping folks in this way?
Yeah.
A couple questions. One is that. The other one is like, what are you most exciting about with like technology or new ideas about psychology? Those are 2 questions I'd like to get into.
Okay. Well, and to respond to the second one, I'm not a big technology person, so I don't use AI.
Not like computer technology, like psychological innovation, like new ideas of, imagine when Daniel Goleman came out and social emotional intelligence, that was, it had probably been around for a long time, but he was able to bring it all together in a real compelling way.
Yeah. I think that, and I'm not an expert on this and can't speak super intelligently about it, but I mean, there's always new, interesting stuff happening in the field. And I think, polyvagal theory is really important and helpful, learning about, the vagus nerve and the nervous system and how that's really exciting. I've done some training in that.
You have.
I'm not super fluent in it yet, but it does. But polyvagal theory is really a part of all the trauma modalities that I use.
It is
right. Then
It's soothing, right?
Yeah,
You're
the way,
soothing
yeah,
yourself.
bringing the nervous system down,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Creating safety,
Ramping down.
right? Creating nervous system safety, yeah. Yeah, I'm always reading. I'm learning a lot from my clients, and I'm I'm interested increasingly in, the intersection between psychotherapy and spirituality.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, doing my own personal work, doing more readings. It was in a meditation study group this past year for The Power of Now, which I'd read years ago, but which I was able to reread from a new perspective this time. Also read The Untethered Soul in the last year.
Michael Singer.
Yeah. So I'm doing that kind of exploration. I actually just learned a new term yesterday. I don't even know how I came across it, or was it the day before yesterday? Called otrovert. Otrovert.
Oh, we got a new vert?
Yes.
Intro, extro,
and otrovert.
Well, I've heard of ambivert.
Yes.
That was like
yes, and this was like one of these huge aha moments for me.
We got a new vert.
Yes, because I never knew if I was an extrovert or an introvert. Then I decided I was an omnivert or an ambivert. But
yeah.
And then I read about otroverts, and otro comes from the Latin meaning other.
Oh,
and what it describes is people who don't really identify with or bond or connect with groups.
Huh.
So they can be extremely social, really value lots of close connection, but not really form attachments with groups. And so that's been kind of my life thing. And when I was younger, I, had never had any school spirit. I just literally felt nothing, and all my friends would be cheering at the pep rallies or the football games. And I just felt nothing for that. I'm parts of many different communities and dance communities and all sorts of things. And I really value my one-on-one connections. But I had just observed over the years that I didn't seem to have the same strong emotional response to the community as a whole as so many other people. They really found it at like this home and really, and I always thought, gosh, what's wrong with me? Reading this, it was like, wow, that's me. And it's just a personality trait. And it's not good or bad or anything. Yeah. And so, because I really do like to know a lot of people. I have a lot of close friends, connections, and so forth. And also, and I like to be part of groups. But I just don't feel like a strong attachment or bond or anything. So anyway, that was exciting to learn something new. Otrovert.
Everybody.
Yeah. So that's to kind of answer your question. Just, always learning new things and expanding. And then when I learn new things or about myself or the spiritual work, reading about, free will, and then those things I bring into my work with my clients. So that's to answer your second question.
Did you see Eckhart Tolle when he came?
I did not.
I didn't either. It was too expensive. Eckhart Tolle, bring your tickets, prices down. Okay?
There's too many things to do in the city. So
there is, but
which is a good problem.
Did the Power of the Now talk, I think.
And then your first question was, I'm trying to remember.
What excites you about your practice? What do you find is enlivening or...
Well, I think the number one thing I love about my work and excites me about my practice is that I get to be in therapy myself all day, every day I work, in that all day I get to practice being present. Present and open-hearted.
Yeah.
And I have the opportunity to get to know all these people in a very intimate way that you might not get to know. And I get to love them. And I get to not need anything from them.
Yeah.
And I get to help them. And it's not about me, and it's not my ego. And it's just a very grounding feeling for me that helps me be more whole. So that's a big part of it. The other thing I think, because I work a lot with relationships, whether it's my individual clients or my couples or family members, is that you just never know how many people you're impacting when you're helping a couple, for example, who has children.
Yes. Oh my
And
goodness.
it's, when the couple gets stronger, all of a sudden the children are acting out less.
Yes.
The children are doing better in school. The
Yes.
children. So that's, or when I'm working with an individual client and we're working through some past experiences, trauma, distressing experiences that have prevented them from being open-hearted and being able to engage in a variety of healthy relationships, then when they are able to expand and have closer and more expansive relationships, all those people benefit.
Yeah.
Right? Because then they get to be in relationship with this person who has moved towards open-heartedness and integration. And that's how we can make the world a better place. One by one, our relationships, by modeling and by being in connection with, from a calm, grounded, open-hearted place.
Heck
So
yeah.
that's what I'm most excited about my work. It's all about love.
It's all about love. I had the vision of you just doing a meta meditation the whole time. A love and kindness meditation. You're present.
Yeah.
But a part of that presence is this like outpouring of love, of like well-wishing.
Yeah. Well, and the more if you're doing, Buddhism or other spiritual practices, there becomes less and less of a boundary between you and the other, right?
Yeah.
And then you just start to feel more and more how, everything is a we. And that just, amplifies all the, the joy and the ease.
Yeah.
Right? There doesn't have to be tussles.
The Buddha went to the baseball field and he was getting a hot dog. And the hot dog vendor said, "How would you like your hot dog?" And you know what he said?
What?
"Make me one with everything."
Okay, I never remember jokes, but I'm going to try to remember that one.
And to
Make
that,
me one with everything. Yeah.
I'd like to end with,
yeah.
with pulling the card and talking about it. I have a Michael Singer deck of cards.
Oh.
I also have a deck of cards. We don't have to, but if you want to.
What do you mean pulling the card?
Well, there's these decks. I have a Artist's Way deck. I've got a tarot deck. I've got different decks. We could pull one and just see what happens.
Okay, I could do that quickly. I will need to use the bathroom at some point.
Yeah, if we can do it quickly. What kind of deck you want to do? Tarot, Artist's Way, Michael Singer.
Yeah, you pick. I haven't done any of those.
Well, you like Untethered Souls.
Yeah.
I'll do these. Here's a handful. I'll just hand you these.
Oh, the boxes are so beautiful. Okay.
Whichever one calls to you will
Becoming Dragon. I'm going to pick that one because I was born in the year of the dragon.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool one. Shuffle it up first.
Okay.
I'll pull from... I love these. I didn't even bring the Artist's Way. Let me grab it.
Well, I think we've got enough here, don't we?
We do, but I didn't bring the Michael Singer deck. Which, by the way...
I love the enthusiasm and greediness about getting all the cards.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of greediness.
Yeah. Michael Singer has... are you a member of the Austin Public Library?
I am.
Yes. Michael Singer has, or at least he had, I hope he still does, it was like I want to say like 25-hour lecture series on there that I listened to, that it's basically like it's the lecture series around untethered souls. And it is, for me, it was very inspiring. It helped me understand the book better, understand the concepts better. I must have listened to that like 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
You can find it for free at Austin Public Library.
Great resource, yeah.
It is a tremendous resource.
Great resource.
Yeah. What'd you pick?
Okay. Should I read it?
Yeah, sure.
It says, on one side it says belonging, and on the other side it says avoiding.
That's such a good one for our talk today, huh?
Really is.
Belonging and avoiding.
Right. The whole introvert thing. Yeah.
Yeah, belonging. Our sense of belonging, the
Yes.
idea of these communities and you know.
Yeah. It's one thing that we're hearing a lot about is people are talking more and more about loneliness, and that it's epidemic.
I think so.
And that feeling of, and especially when you're around other people, and you still feel lonely and you still feel like you don't belong. What was the opposite of that? Belonging and avoiding.
Well, that's the addiction. That's the saying like this void is not present. Instead of saying like, oh, there's something missing here.
Right.
That could enhance or enrich my life.
Yeah. And always, we always want to look and validate the reasons why some tendencies that seem unhealthy or unproductive are there, like avoidance. Avoidance of your emotions, of relationships was a really good strategy for a lot of people in their childhood environments. Right. It kept them from greater suffering. So we always want to help people not feel shame about some of their tendencies, understand how they were really helpful at the time, and now how they can sometimes interfere with their well-being. Yeah.
Right? It helps you survive up until now.
Yeah.
Now we can get different resources. This one flew from the deck.
Okay.
So
yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The universe picked it for us.
All right. Okay. What does it say?
Well, did you want to say more about that? I kind of interrupted you.
I don't think that we need to say a lot more about it. I think that we've talked about it. And I think it's kind of like pulling that card is just sort of a, coming full circle. Yeah. Yeah.
This one, the front of this says living life. And this, on the other side, it says, you can never see where the Tao is going. You can only be there with it. You can never see where the Tao is going.
Well, I certainly didn't know where this conversation was going to go today.
You didn't?
I didn't.
You had no expectations.
I had a general idea we'd talk about therapy or trauma or personal growth, but
me too.
Didn't really know where it would go or how it would go. So, and we both we played together.
We played together. And time flew by.
It did.
I looked there, it was like 1 o'clock. I was like,
I know. Yeah. I probably need to go.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that it flew by and it was, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I felt a lot while we were talking.
Yeah.
I had multiple kind of like feelings of like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. When you get that tingle or that like tenderness.
You were moved.
I was moved.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful discussion.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that folks should be aware of or have some exposure to.
Yeah. I think a lot of times when we take in content, whether it's an interview, a podcast, a book, a video, whatever, it speaks to us most when it's a truth we already know somewhere inside, and what's happening is a recognition. And I'm guessing like when you were talking about the tingly feeling or the move, because maybe I was talking about something that was naming what you've experienced.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a good feeling, right?
Yeah.
That was like the introvert. Okay. Now there's a,
And a way to, it's kind of like, when I learned about rejection sensitivity dysphoria, I was like,
oh yeah,
wait a second, this is a thing?
Yes.
That's me.
Yes.
So then I have something that I can talk to other people about and feel like, oh, I have this, or I experienced this.
Going back to the shame, it really helps to challenge that, right?
Is there anything you want to share in conclusion?
Just that I feel really happy that we got to spend this time together, and I don't talk about my work in such an extensive way, normally. So it's been helpful for me to just talk some of these things out loud and connect with you. And I really appreciate your doing this series. And I can tell it's really coming from the heart. And so I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, This has been Phil Phails with Sheilah Murphy. I normally do like a Phil Phails at,
Okay.
and I've been thinking like, what is this Phil Phails at for our discussion? Would it be Phil Phails at trauma, or Phil Phails at personal growth, or Phil Phails at?
Well, I don't know, because it doesn't sound like you're failing.
Well, fail is synonymous with learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, you talked about that situation with the guy in your men's group, and you talked about, that interaction with your girlfriend at the gym, after the gym.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Phil fails at forgiving himself.
Ooh, Phil Phails at forgiving. I like that. Himself.
Tied to shame. Yeah.
Because we talked about
Yeah.
shame.
Yeah.
Could you look at the camera and wave at everybody?
Thank you, whoever is watching this.
Throughout time.
Yes, right.
It's cool, yeah. Well, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil.
It's a wrap. You can just swivel that out.
Okay.
Yep, just like that. Wow.